I'm incredibly excited to see what Total War 40k has to offer, because as a big fan of Warhammer 3, the fact that 40k is just kind of on a different scale means that you can't exactly implement it in the similar way. So I'm very curious to know how different 40k is going to feel comparatively to my experience with Warhammer 3. But yeah, shout out to Insaniac for letting me know that this live stream was going to happen. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch it live because it was happening at around the same time of one of my scheduled live streams, but we're here with the VOD now, which you guys can check out before watching my reaction at the link at the very top of the description, so you don't have to sit here and listen to me yap for probably over an hour. We'll see how long it is.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Total War Warhammer 40,000 Alpha Strike livestream ranged combat. I wrote it down this time so I wouldn't forget it.
Nice.
I am Joshua Williams, Head of Community Engagement. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined by two fantastic guests. And what we're going to be doing today is showing off a live battle, maybe a couple of times as we talk through some stuff. And then we've got a few clips to show some things that may or may not trigger as we,
and I really hope we
work
get
our
into
way
the beta.
Through the 41st millennium. So starting off, they can see your names. So
they're right. They're under the right people.
They are. They weren't yesterday, but they are today. Dave, care to introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do on Total Warhammer 40,000?
So I'm Dave Petrie. I'm the battle product owner. So basically, I look after the what and the when of the features that we're going to make in battles across Total War. But obviously, again, a big focus on doing Total War Warhammer 40,000.
Yep.
So yeah, making sure this comes through in the shape we would like it to for everyone.
We like making the titles longer and longer every time.
Yeah. It's getting a challenge.
It's a light novel title now at this point.
Yeah. I'm Pedro Engana. I'm the battle technical lead for the whole team that's been working on these next generation Total War titles. So it's really exciting to be here finally, be able to start getting into the depths of some of the stuff that me and my team have been doing for all these years, get us to show some of the cool stuff, some of the cool tech that we've been building, and some of the new features you might be seeing in this game.
Yeah, I have no idea how long this game has been in production. I did know that it was currently in the works over at CA, but never really what it was going to be like until we saw that initial release trailer, or I guess teaser trailer.
Fantastic. We're very excited for this stream. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So how old is the build that we're going to be showing off today?
So it's a couple of months old. This is the same build that we used for the SGF demo. And actually, a really cool thing about this build is that when we captured all of that footage, it is just the game, right? And we thought, well, let's just play the battle from that demo, right? Because again, what we want to do is make sure when we deliver that sort of thing that we are just building the game, right? And we are showing the game, right? Because
Always preferred when it's just the gameplay. That's kind of what we're here for. The cinematic trailers look cool and all, but it really doesn't tell anybody about what a game is going to be like.
it's a no BS approach. So we want to just show you what's there.
Fantastic. So what is in development at the moment? From what they'll see.
Pretty much everything is still in development. This is definitely a development build.
It's going to be an
not
ongoing
smoke and mirrors.
project.
It's not that
even
dressed
after
up.
release.
It's just what the game is looking like right now, with a few months of delay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm hearing, could we maybe have all of our volumes slightly up, Mr. Audio Man? So you'll see that we've got, when we get into the battle, which will just be 30 seconds away, we will have a little thing in the bottom left-hand corner, a QR code and a link if you want to sign up for the closed beta. So if you're interested in what you see and you want to give your feedback, that will be the opportunity to do so. We aren't going to be playing. It will be played live. We have someone over at the PCs. Will has played this battle 100 times, and we've asked him to play.
No pressure.
But we've asked him to play to demonstrate
Play it
things
perfectly.
rather than to crush the enemy.
Yes,
right?
yeah,
So
absolutely, yeah.
he's going to be playing in a style which will hopefully make some things happen that we can talk about and demonstrate some mechanics, rather than to try and absolutely optimize, annihilate the enemy.
Yeah, we might ask some difficult things of Will throughout
We may,
so
and we'll see
it's
if
a
we
tough
can
job.
accomplish it.
We're going to be responsible for the Imperium losing today, probably.
No. I can appreciate when people are so good at a game that they know how to manipulate the AI in order to win battles that they very much should not have. We've seen plenty of examples of this with Warhammer 3. But I also feel like over-optimizing it in that way, or using these sort of cheese mechanics in order to get through a battle, kind of takes away some of the fun that I personally have with games like this. going for a slightly unoptimal, maybe more thematic thing, maybe make a play that just makes sense logically, or well, lore-wise, could be kind of fun. But yeah, that is to say that I'm just super excited to get my hands on the game someday and mess around with a bunch of the different faction mechanics. Probably mess it up, but it'll still be a fun learning process.
Brilliant. And Will was the only person who volunteered for this. So everyone thanks to Will for jumping in. All right. Are you ready for us to go over to the battle display, Will? So we have here our first live look at the game. So this is as you said, this is a build that they've seen this battle before. Yep. It's maybe the last time they see the battle. But they've seen this battle before, they've seen this map before, but never the full thing with deployment and everything we're going to be running through.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming we're playing as the Astra Militarum. We also have some Ogren units with us as well, along with some tanks. This deployment field looks very similar to the usual Total Warfare, but obviously with that Warhammer 40k skin on top of it. So maybe it's not going to be too unfamiliar once we hop into it. I do hope that they get to show like the whole campaign map as well, because that is the part that I'm most curious about, to be honest with you. Like, what kind of scale will the battles be happening on?
Top to bottom.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of very familiar stuff here. Obviously, deployment is there. It's deployment is part of Total War.
Yeah.
But again, in terms of the style of the map and the kind of map that it is, it's not miles away from the sort of map that we've had in previous Total War titles.
Yeah.
We do have a big spectrum of different kinds of maps, of course. So we're going to have more dense maps. We're going to have more sparse maps. This one sits on the sort of more sparse side of things, but it's not the completely flat, I want to say tournament style map, necessarily. But it's got some interest in it. But it is a good sort of,
it's a good middle ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Presents a few different things.
Exactly.
Presents some denser areas, some open areas. So it's a pretty good show map.
We should check out that lovely sunset, because it is. That is beautiful. It's grim dark.
Damn.
Yeah, I can.
That looks pretty darn good. That's something that I've enjoyed about Warhammer 40k. Is just the spectacle and scale of it all. And if you're not able to capture that scale properly within a Warhammer 40k game, then you're probably not going to capture the audience. I think this looks pretty good.
Hear everyone going yapping. But it's lovely. Take it in, isn't it lovely? Look, and a huge amount of work is going into making sure that we capture the feeling, the grim dark, the scale, everything.
Yes.
So massive kudos to the art team for putting off something that looks this wonderful.
Someone called me out very accurately of where's the close beta sign up. That's on the clips that we'll show later. But you're welcome to Google it and find it yourself before that QR code comes up. So we'll talk about just a couple of things here before we actually jump into the battle, because some of this UI is brand new, right? So we want to make sure people understand exactly what they're seeing there. So. Should we start with reserves?
Yeah.
Will, do you want to click there? There you go.
Ta-da. So, massive disclaimer. Again, like the actual, that panel itself, as of very recently, completely changed. It is still a panel, but we have strategic reserves. So a big part of this game is basically teeing up the forces that you're going to bring into the battle from your campaign, and having them come in their various different ways. So you may have some opportunity to sort of shuffle some units around during deployment, like what do you want to have your starting army as. But then there will be more restrictions as well. Let's say you're playing with Space Marines and you have a fleet in orbit. You'll have some people racked up on that fleet that you won't necessarily be able to start the battle with.
Wait, hold up. A fleet in orbit? So that must mean that the campaign map is more on a galactic scale then, right? But this is a pretty neat concept. It's been quite a while since I played Warhammer 3. Like, I believe the last time I played it was the last stream that we did here on this channel, till we moved on to other Warhammer games. But I don't believe this was a mechanic at the time. Having that, I guess, flexibility to your army, and making sure that there are units to be able to deal with different kinds of threats seems like a very important strategic layer that, now that I think about it, adds a whole new strategic layer that I actually would enjoy.
You can join the battle with them throughout using the strategic reserves panel, bringing them in via very violent and upsetting ways, such as drop pods. We don't have... Oh, sorry, Pedro.
I was going to say, like, you'll have to consider at deployment whether you want to bring your full force in, or if you want to keep some stuff in reserves so that they can fly in on Thunderhawks later to surprise the enemy.
but we're playing the guard.
I see.
We are.
And the
Okay.
Astra
We're not doing
Militarum, they do have Valkyries.
They hoof it.
Yep.
Yeah, but we tend not to send them down via drop pod because they are human, they are squishy,
Yep.
and
They're
they
not
wouldn't survive
Helldivers.
that kind of impact. So the guard's playstyle is much more about bringing reserves up the field to sort of meet the enemy and hold the line effectively.
Yep.
It's
Which
a bit more
hopefully-
like classical Total War reinforcements.
yeah, with more control over who and when and where,
Yep.
basically.
Then there's two other things we'll touch on before we
we
get to
yapping?
battle. Actually, do you know what? People seem pretty interested in what we're saying rather than having a go at me for not telling Will to press start battle. So there's 2 rows of icons above the mini-map there. What are they?
Oh, well, they're different things for starters.
They are.
So we have the bombardments that you're going to bring into the battle, and again, all work in progress UI. But the explosive, powerful ordnance that you have from off field, or again,
I see. So these are probably the equivalent of like the spells you would have that your lord would be able to cast.
from your fleet that again, due to your campaign situation, you will have teed up before this battle. So let's say, well, in this case, actually, we have our Death Strike Godspear warhead, which is that is coming from off field, right? That is an
Yes.
artillery piece sat off field, ready to get involved. We've done it in our campaign, but if we do have a fleet in orbit as well. We have our Lance Strike, and we have our
We have some Valkyries at the ready.
Yep, ready to drop in some missiles. So we've got a bunch of different bombardments that we can drop in, and then we have our army abilities, or in this case,
The orders.
Yeah,
regimental orders. So the Astra Militarum has this mechanic where
Interesting. Using cover to withstand incoming missile threats, increase evasion and suppression resistance. Huh. From what I recall, Warhammer 3, there was that cover mechanic, kind of, when you use the terrain in order to take less damage. At least I think. I feel like at this point I may be getting my memory mixed up with other strategy games that we played here. But I also assume that a lot of these mechanics are like things you could do on the tabletop version of 40k, just sort of adapted into the Total War format.
you can enact orders that will spread to units that are within range of Voxcaster. So their playstyle is making sure that you have
Voxcaster, okay.
all of your units close enough to a command unit that can then issue these orders, which will give them different buffs that you will use to manage your situation in the field to adapt to what you need.
Very similar, inspired by their tabletop mechanics, right?
of course,
there you
yeah,
go.
and again, just how the guard should operate, right? Again,
Yep.
like coming from the lore, like they are waiting for their orders. They are the human wall. So yeah, and so part of that playstyle with the guard that we'll hopefully see if Will does his does the best he can. Is presenting that strong front and meeting the enemy in the open and then crashing against them and reinforcing. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Fantastic. Well then, we got a lot else to talk about, but I think we can start the battle and start touching on some of it as Will battles the orcs.
Let's go.
Okay, go on then. So one thing to point out is the Cassicans were not in the deployment zone.
No.
So they had forward deployment.
Yeah,
Vanguard
forward
deployment.
scouts. Yeah, classically Vanguard deployment, but yeah, forward scouts. Yeah, so they are able to deploy from the front, obviously with some limitation,
Ooh, wait, look at that.
deploy from the front, obviously with some limitation.
Oh, so you can select your units and select some terrain and they will automatically like position themselves to take cover behind it. That's really cool. It's been an even longer time since I played it, but it kind of reminds me of like when you're commanding your squads in Men of War Assault Squad.
And scout out the battlefield for you and have better vision and better visibility. Visibility now being a big deal. Fog
It's
of
a
War.
big deal, yes.
Yep. So you can see. We visualize now where things are. We have Fog of War.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it is actually in this build though.
It's
so
not the visuals. The visuals that are not engaged, but the mechanics are. Like this is why we
Gotcha.
cannot see the orcs at the moment.
Right.
But Fog of War has a pretty big impact in this game, especially because we're playing in sometimes very dense maps. Buildings, other obstructions will block your Fog of War. So part of the strategy might be to destroy sightlines to be able to see where the enemy are coming from.
And we see one of them approaching
Is that a
right
road
now.
roller?
Yeah, there's a very eager battle wagon who's
brave.
currently being very brave and being a little bit suicidal to drive.
Oh,
people.
I mean, yeah, I did
But,
see what he's going to
No, that's what he's met a Baneblade. At this point, he's probably made the decision that it's worth just going in and going ham. And he's done. So he's done the best he can, and he smashed over some cover.
Some cover, yes.
Which is probably worth talking about.
Oh, that's really cool. The tank gets destroyed, so now it becomes potential cover for your infantry.
A little bit.
Yeah. Will moved some people into cover here on this left ruin.
Yeah. and you can see that they'll filter into positions, basically. So we really wanted to keep it as close to the standard control as possible. So this is just part of the drag out. When you're dragging out a unit over a cover zone, they will populate positions within their own.
Oh shit!
Oh no!
That's what you do if you don't want the opponent to get cover.
It's all good. A bombardment's coming in, so this is all going to get a little bit messy. That Bane Blade's trying to contribute though. Which is going to be a rough time for our poor guardsmen. What this gives us a nice opportunity to talk about is the destruction of cover.
I guess this is just a more accurate guardsman experience, though.
And how that works too. So we have cover zones. They are pre-established within the map, and it's a combination of the simulation of the actual projectiles being fired and hitting those cover pieces. Those can be destroyed, but within those cover zones as well, we are doing a few things to sort of keep it established. Yep. So we have a concept of evasion, and as long as you're within a cover zone, you're slightly harder to hit. The enemy is more likely to miss you. And what gets destroyed does leave behind a little bit of detritus, as you can see. So basically, there's always a little bit of effect there. What we didn't really want is for players to have to sort of constantly think about, is there cover there? Isn't there cover there? Yep. Did it move? Did it get fully destroyed? So there is an impact. There is a simulated impact. It will become slightly less effective, but it still holds on to some of its teeth. Yep. Which is, we're finding to play really nicely. Yep. But this is the point of coming to closed beta, right? Is to start to really actually fence this with everyone that is going to spend, I hope, a great deal of time like we are playing this game and enjoying it, and figuring out where.
This is something I really loved about Warhammer 3 as well, was like the little animations that they had for the characters in their battles against each other. Probably the most impressive one that I still remember till today were the little Nurglings, I believe they're called, and how they would join together and create stacks and use their bodies to fling at people. It's just so fun and creative. The battle just started, and this really does feel like the Warhammer that I'm familiar with, just Warhammer 40k, with a lot of new additions that I think are really cool.
Where to take it and how to sort of really dial into the guts of it. Yeah. It's gone really well on that left flank, hasn't it?
They've thrown everything at him.
So,
maybe some reinforcements at the back for a second wave.
Maybe get the Bane Blade involved. But no, the cover zones, most of the areas in this map that you see that have tons of cover pieces, have sandbags, look fortified. These are the proper cover zones that'll give you both the simulated impact and the buff. But staying behind positions of cover can also exist in some other contexts. For example, if you bring in a very, very large bombardment, it'll make a crater. This crater will allow you to dock some units to it to have the simulated benefit of being behind something that cannot be shot at. But in those cases, you won't get the buff because this is not a fortified zone. It's not prepared for cover. It'll give you some advantage, but not quite the same advantage as these areas of the map that are specific.
I wonder how much you can manipulate the map in order to give yourself a tactical advantage. I don't know if this has been added yet, but at the time I was playing it, Warhammer 3 doesn't really have a mechanic like that where you can just bend the earth to your will and create fortified positions or mountains or valleys and whatnot. I thought that could be a really cool concept, actually. And I believe that there was a much older RTS game that I had learned about from Mandalore Gaming's channel that did have a mechanic like that, actually. And, it was a bit of a questionable addition, and it led to some pretty funny things happening. But it's just such a cool idea that I hope someday one of these, RTS games can implement something similar.
For it.
Yeah. So you get some benefit out of it, and there is some really fun sort of emergent gameplay that can come out of, are we about to drop the bomb? Oh, okay, yeah. All right. All silence.
Here we go.
Here comes the death strike. So this is lovely. I love this. So yeah, you can see it's left behind that crater there. Yeah. Obviously, that's a massive one. You'll probably get more effect out of the smaller ones that pepper things, and you have different bombardments with different sorts of cadence of explosion that will create different sizes of crater and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Squads on their way.
Super fun. How's it? We need the second front. We need the second front. Do you think it's worth talking about projectiles in
some? One thing. If you look back at that tank, one thing that tank's doing it's trying to do.
Oh, it's trying to get out of range. It's firing.
It's still flaming them, and you can see some las cannons going off.
I think that's a melter going off, but yeah, he is strafing. Yeah, he's strafing. So yeah, we've introduced strafing.
Okay.
It's a modified movement basically. For your mouse and keys, you can hold down Alt as you drag out. You can just move in that direction. It's not limited to vehicles.
It's probably something similar to like setting your units to stay at their effective range, so they'll automatically start to back up. But oftentimes you don't want to use that because they'll end up backing away in the wrong direction and end up even further inside the enemy's territory. I'm curious to see how well implemented these features will be when the game releases. Because, the coding can probably get a little bit funky, especially with all these moving parts.
We want everyone to have this potential to strafe, but with different proficiency.
Yeah.
Let's say that. So infantry can strafe, everyone can strafe, but we want to make sure that the different sort of asymmetry and skills of the units are represented. So guardsmen, etc., they'll be able to move backwards slowly whilst firing. Orcs can do it if you're that organised and really want to be backing away. It's not the playstyle you want to go for with orcs necessarily, but
yeah, no. Orcs do not walk back. They only W key in.
when it really shines is where you get your powerhouses like Space Marines who are so powerful and super accurate.
Don't lose any accuracy by doing it.
Exactly, right. So there are negatives to strafing, but what it allows you to do is you like move sideways, move backwards, and really reinforce your positional gameplay. Because I think a really big part of what makes Total War so crunchy and fun is the positional gameplay.
Nice. Carpet bombing.
And lots of limbs.
That's always been our objective. So we're building a game in the 41st millennium and we want to bring all the good Warhammer goodness, but we still want this to feel like a proper Total War game.
Yeah.
So Total War is a lot about positioning and moving your troops in the right place and attacking the enemy from the right angles. So we still want to drive gameplay primarily through that.
Absolutely. I guess we'll talk more about like how the combat paradigm works later. But that positional gameplay is super important, right? So things we'll talk about it later, but the suppression, flanking, etc. At range is all really important to take down your opponent and make sure you are enfilading, getting around them, encircling them, and bringing them down, alongside using cover. We need more stuff. We need more men. Send in more men. Send in more men.
I can't remember if you touched on this when we were talking.
It's just the Astra Militarum way, isn't it? We need more men.
About reserves themselves, but where are these reserves coming from? If you're on a campaign map.
Right, okay, yeah, so this will be your surrounding armies, and people that are up on your people, might not be people, Xenos as well, those that are on your fleets.
So, yeah, never mind then. It's basically just the reinforcement mechanic. If you have another army and you're already at the limit of units that can be in a battle, then they can start flooding in once you start losing units, I'm pretty sure. I thought it was like you can build an army that is bigger than the limit that you can take into battle, but you can pick and choose who goes into the battle.
So basically, surrounding armies can get involved in these battles. Obviously, there is a total limit of armies that will be able to get involved in a conflict. But yeah, you can bring in.
It's the same system
in some cases up to 40 onto the battlefield, and you'll be able to get involved. Might be quite difficult to get up to 40 Space Marine units in one place. Right, but that is definitely not hard to do with Guard. So
that is the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there are 40 units of Space Marines in one place, you're probably fucked. The situation has to be dire for that to happen.
A little detail about the reserves as well that might be worth noticing is at the top, the balance of power bar, you might notice that it has a little divot and another section that basically indicates how many units are in the field and how many units are still to come in. So you can see that still have a little bit of units to come in from the Astra Mill, and the development in progress is kind of hiding the orc bar, but I believe they have deployed everything at this point, so no more surprises from the orcs.
Yeah, we've got a little bit more in the cannon, although they do have a stomper.
Honestly,
they've got a stomper
as well.
Oh my god, that's a big boss.
He's rough.
He's a scary guy.
Maybe we'll make it.
Maybe
we'll make it.
Look at him go.
We really wanted to put the biggest thing that we could get away with in a Total War game. We're looking at putting bigger things in later down the line, of course. But this will be the biggest thing we've had in a Total War. I'm very excited about that.
You're going to need that low health Baneblade, Will. That's going to have to shoot that
Don't let him die.
Yeah, you will.
Get around him. Awesome.
So you can see here, as we kind of predicted, right? He's got a second wave of the guards.
Yep.
So the first took out what they could, but that's just a huge number of orcs that have just managed to smash through. So now it's up to that second wave who, looking, I guess, at the corpses of all of the ones who failed before them, having their own go at holding the line.
Yeah, but thankfully there's also some cover positions at the back of the map, so now this is where we're trying to make our last stand.
Yeah.
And we're going to hit the panic button.
Yeah, this is the record. So, calling from the fleet, we're going to have our lance strike. This is
What is this? Under heavy flanking fire, suppressed. I wonder what these conditions will do to a unit. Possibly reduce their stats?
a hyper powerful, very AP centric weapon. You're not going to be able to use this sort of thing often. It is a really a wow. Okay, he's still
almost,
up.
Almost.
He's still up. We got a problem. So there we go. He's probably on his way out. He's starting to part.
There you go. Nice.
Congratulations.
Oh, you're running little ones.
Boom.
Well, you
Good
see
job.
That die, you're probably going to run on.
Now,
But yeah, we can.
we have to shoot down the routers.
Yes.
It's only right.
We can talk a little bit about the land strike. Our abilities now have this chance that you can decide to continue controlling the ability. You can hold the button and keep guiding the land strike and painting over the enemy if you wish. But then this obviously locks you down to using the land strike and not allows you not to order other units to do other things.
Yep.
But if you want to micromanage, if you want to paint a crayon of death over a very specific set of units, you can hold it and control it yourself.
Okay, that's
and
cool.
catch, for example, the enemies trying to run away from your laser of death. You can track them and go after them by assuming direct control.
Yeah.
That's an awesome wreck to have to run past as well.
There's a really fun, as we were developing it, there was this really fun moment where we decided to keep it as part of how it works, but you can push it in a direction and then let it go, and it will continue to travel in that direction.
All
And sort
right.
of actually like making it into this sort of like horrific Beyblade.
Yep.
Kind of feels right. So yeah, there's a few different abilities that will use this in different ways. Like a macro cannon, it sort of like drops shots over time, etc.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's all about managing your headspace. Do you want to spend your time there? Or do you want to spend your time, doing other things and let it go? So yeah, look at that beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Chasing them down. So we will. It's really annoying me that I've just noticed my foot is slightly off the barrier there. That's going to bug me for the next 20 minutes. All right. So what we'll do is we'll reset this battle because we want to talk a bit about unit cards, and then loads of people have been asking about like firing lines, projectiles. We'll go into a deep dive on that next. But before we do that, there's one thing that we can only show at the end of the battle, and that is, don't press it yet. Don't you dare. And that is the visuals of a unit, right? After they've been attacked and damaged. So if you can find some damaged people, Will.
Yeah. Hopefully, I would expect. So it's quite hard to find damaged guardsmen, because the damaged ones tend to end up dead. And that is a thing. But yeah, basically, what we want to try and do is get sort of a cumulative effect of what's happened to things across the battle.
Yeah.
So
The Baneblade might look a bit bad.
The Baneblade looks a little bit burned. Yeah. So have you been burnt? Have you been shot?
Yeah,
have you been punched? Have you been cut? Obviously, there's a limit to the amount of stuff that we can do, and it's not like mapped 1-to-1 with bullet holes, etc.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is it's telling a story
need to
about like what's happened to that unit or that individual. So by the end of a combat with again like Space Marines, you can end up with some really cool sort of rugged, battered individuals that look like they've been through a hell of a ringer and tell the story of what's happened to them throughout the battle.
Yeah.
And it depends on the type of damage that they take. So the Baneblade, you can see that has a bunch of bullet holes. It means it got shot a lot. Is it a bit burned? It went against some flamethrower units. That's kind of the story it tells.
Yeah.
Yesterday when we did a little run through, there was a commissar, right? Who was burned, bleeding, shot, and it was.
I can't believe he was still alive. He'd done a good job. He stayed standing, a proud commissar.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put us back to our camera just while you reset them, Will, and we can talk a little bit about unit cards. Because the challenge here really is, and as we'll show and talk about it, that units they're not just all one thing anymore. So that commissar wasn't just a commissar on their own, right? They were part of a squad. So really there was a challenge there with unit cards of how are you going to represent multiple different profiles, and then you guys kind of went insane and took that further of what if even within the same profile they had different weapons, right? So we'll get that rebooted and then we'll start talking about that. But
wonder how you
was there a
customize
moment
that?
where that challenge felt like too much?
I think when
Yes.
Honestly, when we started, I mean, this is a huge. All of this is a huge undertaking, and we're very lucky to get to be a part of it. But I think there's a moment when you look at what all the units are made up of, and the total complexity of them.
Yeah.
And we thought, should we try and represent that? And
Yeah.
and the answer came back ultimately is like, yes, absolutely.
We have to. Like a regiment of this many troops is not just going to be everyone with exactly the same gear, exactly the same weapon.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I feel like it is an important extra step that you do have to go to in order to create that authentic Warhammer 40k experience. Without it, then, like, why did we make the game in the first place? At least, that's my perspective on it. Obviously, I'm not a game developer, but I do really appreciate that they went the extra step there.
Yeah, and it's important, like your decisions around your specialization and what you end up sort of gearing your stuff towards throughout your campaigns changes their proficiencies a little bit. It allows you to gear them towards being better at something, or at something else, and killing other things. And it really does just add the character and the flavour that this is Warhammer 40,000 is so full of, right? Like, as a massive fan, lifelong fan of both these series, right?
Yeah.
It's just seeing that come together and making sure we are representing it just felt super right. But Kazakin, I think, are a really good example of this, right? Because we've got a mixed unit here of like hotshot las guns and plasma rifles, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk maybe about the simple stats first.
You click that expand button, because this is the expanded view, right? So if you click the little plus wheel.
That's the thing. Hang on, that's
that one. So this is with that gone. That's kind of the basic view, right?
There
you go.
There you go.
This is the basic view that tells you the core information you need to know about the unit.
Yes, and that's even depending on the tab that you've clicked, will be the basic version of that tab. So if you press expand again, this is then when you're starting to get the more advanced stats.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, the first thing to say is like, all those stats are there.
Yep.
All those stats there. And if anything, we've got more. We've got more probably stats controlling
than we've ever had.
Than we've ever had. Just to be able to manage all of the complexity of all these different weapons.
And obviously, one of the main complexities introduced is a unit is not just made of a single thing.
Yes.
So you can see that these Kazakins are made out of 4 different groups of entities within the unit that all have their different stats, they all have their different gear, and they will serve slightly different purposes when they engage in a battle.
Is this the first time Total War has done something like this to this degree? Because I feel like that's never really been the case. It's always been, this is my unit of spearmen, this is my unit of knights, and each singular unit has one purpose that they're really good at, so you utilize that one unit in the right way in order to win a battle. But now with this mixture of things, I guess it gives people a multi-purpose, or squads a multi-purpose. I wonder how micromanagey you can get with this separation of units. Like, is it possible to simply order the people with the plasma guns to shoot one target, and then the people with the las guns to shoot a different target that it may be more effective against? I feel like that level of control may be a bit much, especially on a wide-scale battlefield like this.
So this is actually probably one of the most complicated units that we have in terms of its function. Because a lot of the units have this sort of really, like, a core primary function that they have, and then we can add specialists and sergeants, etc., to sort of tune them. I'd say about like 20% towards a different direction, like give it a bit more AP teeth, allow it to be a little bit better at sort of like, damaging light units, etc. We'll talk about that in a moment. But there's usually like a core function to the unit. This one is quite split, right? Like it's got a kind of an interesting mix of the lasgun and the plasma, which really tee it up to be good against heavy things and good against medium things and slightly different volume. Which is really cool. But I guess it's worth talking about those classes for a moment. If we just nip back to it's at the top there. Sorry, so just looking at the categories, so light, medium, and heavy. Figuring out like how everything needed to sort of fit together in this game. And again, always a part of the discussion I think with everyone is like, how do you categorize this stuff? And when you start to break it all down, you start to see that there are things that contain lots of entities and generally have low armor. There are things that contain some entities and generally have sort of a medium threshold of armor. And then you have big stuff that's generally either solitary or a couple of things and is super tanky. There are some things that break that rule, but this top level is not to sort of try and explain everything in super detail. It's that sort of 80% fit of like 80 to 90% fit. These are the sorts of things that you'll be good at damaging basically, and everyone fits within these categories. The wonderful thing is that that's just what they are. So putting all that together has been super fun. And the simplest top level way to explain it, without needing to get into that extra 20% depth, which does matter, is that you what are you tuned towards damaging, and how much have you got within your unit that can do that. So looking at this Kazakin, for example, they are really mixed. You can see that they're quite specialized, but they're very good at taking out medium stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll be actually really good at cracking down Space Marines. That's the sort of unit you want to be going. I get that guy in Tacticus armor.
Yeah.
I want to shoot that guy with this one because that will be a prime target for them. But they've actually got some really strong potential to deal with light units, so chaffy stuff, and they've got some pretty decent potential to deal with the heavier stuff.
Yep.
And it all depends on not just the weapons that they have, but the positioning that they're in as well, because. These weapons don't just live isolated on the individuals. They're cycling them, right? They're actually switching between weapons under the context that they're firing things.
An individual soldier might have more than just one weapon. They might have multiple, and they will switch to the right thing at the right time to damage what they need to damage.
And we'll show some of that later, because it is, I think, one of the coolest pieces of tech that this engine's unlocked.
That's really cool, actually. We did see there that there were some people holding las guns as well as like a plasma pistol too. So maybe they just swap to the most effective weapon depending on the target that they're shooting at, or maybe there's just a cycling between weapons while another is being reloaded. I don't think the whole idea of singular people shooting out targets, even though they're in the same squad, is going to be a thing. But the fact that you can specifically customize a squad to be potentially better at a different enemy type or better at fighting a different enemy type is a really cool idea. I'm very curious to know where exactly you would customize this, what sort of resources you would have to spend in order to make that happen. And I guess a bit of a concern as to like what the actual purpose of that would be. Like, would it be better to customize your units in such a way, or would it not be better to just make a new unit that is specialized against that thing, or was created specifically to fight against a certain type of enemy? I guess that's more a question of the resources once again. Like, maybe it's cheaper to change some units to gear them up for a particular battle than it is to obviously spend the time to recruit new units that will deal with this specific threat. But yeah, just the added customization makes me excited because in a way, it makes me feel like they're XCOM soldiers, and I freaking love XCOM. One of my favorite games of all time. But if you just imagine like the one squad of soldiers being one soldier in XCOM, and then you gear them specifically to play in a certain way or fight a particular type of enemy, I don't know. It just really clicks with me personally.
Multiple weapons, context-based.
Yeah.
And we've got some great, like, throwing grenades is such a cool use of that.
Yeah.
Will, if you could go on just the defensive stats one more time of pick a character unit, maybe the Commissar, and maybe see if you can find the Commissar as well while we read through them. But I've given him such a challenge there. So, so we've got a few different things here. Evasion is versus shooting. Your chance to dodge a bullet?
Yes, yeah. So you have your melee stats as well. Again, all the stats are there if you're not.
Yes.
So evasion basically.
You can see the evasion is very heavily buffed because of cover.
And that's what I was going to ask.
Exactly, yeah. So basically people are more likely to miss this guy when they're firing at him. So they're more likely to send shots towards him, but not actually collide with him. They'll probably go high or low or to the side.
Yep.
Which is an interesting moment. Should we talk about projectiles?
That is next on the list.
Let's
go for it.
Let's try and finish the stats so Josh doesn't kill us.
If you want to just start playing again, we'll go for it. We'll talk about projectiles while you do.
Yeah.
So, have we made any changes to the way projectiles work? Or?
A couple changes. So this is obviously a really ranged, combat-focused game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Almost every single unit, not every single, but almost every single unit shoots something at some point. And some of the units even shoot stuff at ridiculous amounts of speeds and in ridiculous amounts. So to be able to keep true to ourselves, keep true to what really makes Total War shine, which is the fact that we try to simulate as much as we can, we did have to do some upgrades to our engine to be able to manage the sheer amount of projectiles that might be coming out of some weapons. So we've done some technical improvements to be able to go below our usual physics tick rate, to have sub-steps specifically to be able to spawn the sheer amount of projectiles that this game needs.
Yep.
And
Yeah, that makes sense. If I was on the team, one of my main concerns would 100% be optimization, because of how many things are going to be on this battlefield at one time. It's just crazy to me that Total War already works, even though, you know, sometimes it does break itself. But the fact that the game runs and works is a miracle, and having to simulate all of this too must be a monumental task to get working correctly. They've had plenty of years of experience with it though, so I'm hoping that on release there aren't too many issues. There obviously are going to be, but that's another thing to look out for.
And at any given point, when you have two full armies shooting at each other, you might have hundreds, maybe thousands of projectiles flying in the air. You can see these bolters firing. Every single little projectile you see is a simulated projectile. It's not smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, it has a parabola. It will travel.
It'll hit cover or a wall or a building
or a someone.
So they are, every one of those projectiles is real.
Yes.
Here, right?
Yes.
It can hit something or miss or misdirect. Or...
Yeah, absolutely. Which adds to sort of the big pile of merging chaos that makes Total War and then this kind of game so fun, right?
Yep.
Is that it's all there, it's all happening. We try and simulate as much as we can. I love these Storm Boys. They're so much fun. Orky tech is so wonky, you know, like it goes
For
wrong,
sure.
but sometimes in the way they want, right?
Exactly.
And off they go.
You know, when they have some tech missing and they fly off, those two are projectiles in a way.
Yeah, they can hit stuff, they can blow up, they can do damage to stuff, they can coil off.
Oh,
and hit
that's
a building.
so fun,
That
actually.
can knock that building down if it's a destructible one. So yeah, you get some really cool moments coming out where you'll just be in this chaotic fight and then a storm boy sort of coils off, blows something up, and chaos ensues. It's super fun.
So I think the
I wonder if debris can fall on units.
Orc missiles.
They wouldn't mind. They're having fun.
They wouldn't. I think the thing that really stuck with me, and I have a list of them here, is it's not just a projectile is not just a thing that's shot at a certain rate of fire, right? There are a ton of things that you track to make sure that this feels authentic and accurate, right? I mean, I can list some of those things off, but I've got down here aim time delay, rate of fire, reload speed, mid-burst delay, burst size, number of bursts in a magazine, if they're continuously firing. What is encompassing when someone goes to shoot? What is everything that's been simulated or checked at that moment?
Yeah, like we mentioned.
But don't list all of it. Just
no, not all of it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to just go through the 50 things.
No.
What's going on there?
No, we've done an overhaul to how ranged combat works. So this needed an overhaul to how the cycle of firing also functions and all the different stats that can control it. So when an individual guardsman gets an order to fire, he will go through a bunch of steps throughout its fire cycle. And we try to simulate this in a way that we can apply to all different types of weapons, all different types of contexts. So when someone gets an order to fire, they will start by target acquisition, and this will put them in an aim animation. They will pick a target, they will aim towards that target, and they will take some time to zero in. Once they're finished, they will go and start shooting, and they will pop off a shot. They will go into a delay to deal with the recoil and get back into zeroing in, and they'll continue shooting, until they eventually run out of ammo in the magazine, and then they will have to do a reload. But compared to previous Total Wars, where rapid fire weapons would shoot repeatedly, and you always would have to shoot a certain amount until they can be interrupted and do something else. Here, each individual shot is part of this cycle and can be interrupted and can be continued later. So if a unit starts firing and it has 5 shots left in the magazine, and they fire off 3, and you interrupt their order or give them a different order or tell them to move backwards, they will stop firing immediately. They will move out, and the next time you give them an order, they will fire the 2 left ones, and then they will have to reload. So all this state is kept.
So even on an individual guardsman level, it's tracking how many.
That's insane, actually.
It's not bullets in a las. How many lasers are left?
How
much energy is left in the battery pack, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's so many people saying, "Can you just show me a guardsman shooting?" Because they love the look of them. So if it won't lose you the battle, just to zoom in and to see some of them having the worst day of their life.
We can capture. Hopefully, there we go. We've got a sergeant stood proud as well. The commissar sergeants, etc. They don't need to duck.
They're in so much trouble.
They need to be exemplar. Really cool stuff.
And so someone pointed out as well, they saw Oberyn's walking backwards. So strafing, as you said, not just tanks, everything can strafe. To varying effectiveness.
Oh god!
You could see as these guardmen were repositioning, some of them kept their weapon up and they were still firing as they were moving. A lot, if not most of the units in this game are able to fire while moving. We've disconnected their legs from their torsos in a way. So if they are moving and they have a weapon and there's enemies in front of them, they will be able to shoot at them as they move and as they go into position and without interruption.
It's hard to sort of it's hard not to understate the amount of effort that's gone into the animation system and upgrading that. The anim team, all of them have done an incredible job of sort of like stepping up to
it's been amazing.
push this further than we have in
It makes the
Total
level
War.
feel so much more dynamic when you're watching it.
It's super cool. It just you can see all those different sort of actions blending together, and it keeps them grounded and in the simulation.
All the different animations blend incredibly well. They run, get into cover, duck, get up, fire, and all of this now is not one canned animation that is forced to run. It's can all be composed depending on the situation and the simulation, which is amazing. It's a great job.
Someone asked
down he went.
someone asked a question there of and I've seen it a few times of firing. It's in firing lines. So someone said there was a guardsman at the back there who wasn't shooting, right?
Yeah. So again, on the positional gameplay side of things, providing frontage is like a really important part of successful range combat, right? Is that you want to have more guns pointing at a place, ideally a focused enemy, than they have. And getting around people and flanking them is all part of that, but also just how you stretch your own unit and how you can sort of space it out will matter. So you can occupy more frontage by dragging your unit out. It's Total War. One thing that we've done here is we put a load of work into the checks that each individual.
That's one of the mechanics that I enjoyed about Total War. Adding that extra layer of whether like how deep you want your units to be or how wide you want them to be, depending on the situation. But now, with this more projectile warfare, there's going to be a lot more to consider. But I also feel like the most ideal scenario will always be as wide as possible behind cover. I guess maybe there will be like different faction mechanics that could change that, or obviously different weapons that aren't necessarily geared like that. But if this system is the way that it works with the Astra Militarum, then you want your units to be file and rank and behind cover and all possible people ready to shoot. I wonder what the equivalent of a spear unit would be in this game, especially considering all the projectiles. Maybe there isn't really that. I'm pretty sure there was a stat for like charge defense or something, right? That we saw before. Maybe that's up to the vehicles, or maybe specific to the faction
entity is making when they're firing. So the ones at the back are basically going, I can't shoot because my friend's in front of me. And we have a bunch of controls to manage, all data driven, how far they will be comfortable firing over each other's shoulders, etc. So the first couple of rows will be happy to fire. The back few are going to be hanging back and going, I can't fire yet, but obviously spreading them out, you're going to get more guns on target. So that works for your positional gameplay. If you are happy to move out of cover, so you've got trade-offs, of course. There's always a trade-off to how you're trying to put your units around the map. But yeah, what's really cool about it is that let's say a grenade lands in the front line of your unit and kills the ones that were firing. The ones at the back in that moment can then go, well, it's a shame that Jim's dead, but now I can shoot. So it all just again comes together as part of the sim.
You're tracking, I guess, line of sight and line of fire for every individual soldier within there. And they're not just looking.
Mental.
They're not just looking maybe at the thing that's being targeted, right? They're looking around for something to shoot.
Yeah.
Indeed. So that's one of the big improvements. That it's small detail, but it's something that I really like. It's awesome. If you have a unit in fire at will and they are firing at someone in front of them, the front lines will be able to shoot, but the people at the back might not be. They might be blocked by their own allies. But if there's another enemy unit to the side that one of the soldiers on the left flank can see, they will shoot at that one. So units can, with fire at will, fire at multiple different enemy units at the same time, depending on how much they're blocked and depending on an individual and the soldier's sideline.
Okay, well, there you go then. That was like my concern. It's like, it's always going to be optimal to spread them as wide as possible. Not necessarily if you're in a position where you're sort of surrounded or you're being attacked from multiple flanks, then having like a bulkier unit position may be better.
Yeah, it can end up being like really cool, especially if you're sort of like on a little like hump of the terrain where you're sort of straddling a little bit of awkward terrain. That bottom half of the unit might then go, oh, hang on, I can't quite hit that thing on the left, but you might get almost half of your unit basically firing at something else valuable, which feels super good.
I wonder then how it would work with the terrain. I have to assume that if you're standing on like a downslope and the enemy is coming up the hill, that the people in the back would still be able to shoot down at the enemy because they're standing at a higher elevation. And obviously, we haven't gotten into it yet, but I wonder if there are weather effects in regards to like how it affects the accuracy of your units and the projectiles and how they behave. Is there like some sort of high wind situation? Although they're shooting las guns, so probably not really going to come into any sort of effect. But with how detailed they're talking about it, it just makes you think of the possibilities of how much further are we going with the simulation.
But I mean, on that, and this has been a huge challenge, right? But trying to get units to fire cleanly, over little bumps and whatnot, and make sure that those checks and the shots all come together. We put a lot of work into that. And again, when we get to the closed beta, I think we're really keen to hear feedback on the smoothness and the responsiveness and how this all feels. We try to explain to you where the breaks in line of fire are. So like when you're about to hover over an opponent, you'll see like a little line that basically appears broken or not, kind of showing you where the line of sight breaker is. So if you do right click, your unit is probably going to move. It's like, okay, oh, I can't see it, it'll move. Or it's like, yep, you're all good to go. That should have the best part of the unit firing. Yep. It's quite finicky stuff. It's hard. Yeah. There's lots of little fine values to play with, but I think we've landed somewhere that feels really comfortable and smooth. It's a combination of all sorts of things, to bring it together. But we're keen to have people
keen to hear feedback.
Yeah, all of you come and play it and try.
When they're doing all of those checks, they're also checking what's the right weapon to use here.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
It's insane.
Yeah. I also like to talk a little bit about sentry mode, since we're talking about these different range behaviors.
Yeah.
Well, I think we may have to we probably won't finish a third battle, but we've still got suppression and flanking fire to talk about, and there's no one left. So I'm going to put
could we just hover over sentry mode?
Yes, hover over sentry mode, then while you're talking about that, we'll get Will to set back up, and we just need some suppression and some flanking fire, and then we'll move on to the
next. We can verbalise it if we need to.
Sentry mode, also relatively small feature, but I've seen some people in the forums asking if this was going to be a thing. It's a bit of a guard mode for ranged, in a way. It allows you to mark an enemy target. Basically, you're telling this unit, whenever you can shoot at that specific enemy, that's who you're shooting. And this allows you to keep your unit in cover. Let's say you have them very well positioned in a cover position, and you have the enemy line advancing on you, and you're like, I really want my Kaskrin to shoot that knob. Not anyone else. So you give him a sentry order on that enemy, and now you don't have to worry that they're going to move out of position with the ranged attack. Yep. They will stay in cover. As soon as they can shoot that, they will. And it also allows you to disconnect your ranged attack, in a way, from movement. So you can paint a target and then give a move order, and they will keep shooting at that target with fire while moving, prioritizing the one you want.
Gotcha.
It's super handy, super versatile. It really does help you just sort of manage, like, I really need them to pay attention to that thing when it shows up.
Yep.
And it gives you that power to kind of go, until then, carry on. But super cool feature.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to see if you can get the battle restarted by the time we've finished talking about some of the things that you're going to.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, say you have something that is very good against heavier units, you have armor-piercing bullets or whatever, you probably want to focus on the armor instead of whatever infantry comes running your way. So just a good feature to have while you're potentially moving the units back, retreating slightly, or trying to flank. It makes a whole lot of sense to have something like this. Alrighty, my dudes. Thanks to the magic of editing, it probably won't seem like it to you guys, but to give you some added context here, it's been 2 days since I last recorded the first half of this reaction. Unfortunately, I couldn't finish it all in one setting because I ran out of time. But just very excited to finally finish this and see what more they have to show us.
We did see it pop up a few times during that battle, especially when things were being shot by small arms fire. Yep. Suppression.
Yes.
What is suppression? How does it work?
So suppression, again, yes, like you said, small arms fire. It's basically a tool to slow down enemies' output, right? So it slows down the rate of fire of the opponent that you're firing at.
Yep.
And it can also physically slow them down. It will make them slower. So basically, it's a way to punish you approaching directly in the open, willy-nilly, just charging headlong without any other sort of strategy.
Okay, so it works sort of like suppressive fire in XCOM, where it sort of debuffs your opponent, makes it so that they're a lot more vulnerable, that they can't really move from behind that piece of cover. But in a real-time game, it would probably just slow them down.
Will basically be a limiter on like how fast a range combat can go on between sort of similar units as well. Yep. So it's got a couple of functions. Again, it's something that we're working on in terms of like the stats and how we really want it to work. So I'm really keen when we get to beta to talk about how it's working and how we can adjust it. But
Yeah, that'd be something you'd have to really define as to what is the suppressive value of a particular unit and whether or not there will be units that are just better at suppressing certain other units, or whether that's just going to be a flat value depending on the type of unit that you're using. There may be some units that are more resistant to suppression. I feel like that should be the case considering the unit type, but we'll see how in-depth they go with it. We've been pretty in-depth so far from what I can recall, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get even more numbers here.
Yeah, ultimately it's there to sort of like slow down the output. Because again, you know, we don't necessarily want, and this has been a challenge here, we don't want every combat to end super, super fast, right? Part of what's fun about Total War is watching it and taking it in, but also it just needs to be something you can play at a pace and understand and take in whilst you're controlling all the stuff. So yeah, it's one way to sort of like slow things down and punish things that are going to approach you.
For sure. That's definitely a good way to go about it, considering the entire point of the real-time battles of Total War is to see a fight play out, have the enemy change their strategy, and you having to adapt to that strategy. It's just a much better feeling than deploying your units in one way, seeing that the enemies deploy their units in another way, and being like, okay, I just lost. Well, time to reload, I guess.
You know, directly in the open.
Absolutely.
But we still want things to be able to approach you. Not
There are
every
tools.
faction, not every faction
tools.
is based
Yeah,
on
yeah.
ranged combat, of course.
Yeah.
Some are
Yeah.
more tailored towards melee, some
for
are
it,
more
Will.
tailored towards ranged.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, orcs might have a few tricks to avoid suppression or not worrying about suppression, for example. And certain units as well, you know, are more or less bothered about it.
Yes.
For example, you know, your tanks, your vehicles, it's hard to suppress them generally, right? Like you can sort of blind
should
them
be
by
harder.
firing a bunch of twinkling lasguns at them. But yeah, ultimately there are different tools for the job, right?
Yep.
So maybe leading the charge with some sort of vehicle to sort of break through and then getting your stuff in, or just chucking in a load of trash that you don't mind getting.
Ooh, that could be really cool, actually. I do recall Past Zero talking about how, like, effective unit formations would be. Like, it'd probably be best to have them all wide instead of narrow, but bulky. But if suppressive fire is a thing, then there may be a use case for positioning, like, a troop of infantry directly behind a tank, and then you could send the tank out first to cover them as they progress through the battlefield.
Hack down because hey, it's Gretchen and boys. That is all totally valid.
And I just want to get a couple of questions from chat that I'm trying to keep in my brain. So the one of the things I saw is someone saying, does that mean they'll obviously the characters being embedded with the bodyguard? Does that mean there'll never be any single entities on their own?
No. So we are obviously no one knows anything yet. We are going. That's not fair. We are going to have single entity units, yes, but most of your characters, unless they are like super powerful and super standout, are going to come with the bodyguard.
Yeah.
And this again is something that we're really keen to be part of your specialization of these units throughout the campaigns.
Yeah.
So you'll may be able to make adjustments to the bodyguard that they have with them. What they're outfitted with, who they are, etc. In terms of, you know, are they Kazakin, are they not, depending on your army, to be able to tailor around your character a little bit more. But yeah,
I mean, that kind of makes sense. Having some extremely powerful hero units, just like in Warhammer 3, it makes sense for them to be their own thing that you can control. Or obviously, like the bigger tanks, the larger vehicles, just like a singular entity unit. I'm assuming that they don't have Tyranids implemented into the game yet, but one would assume like the bigger Tyranids in the army would be singular entities. The stuff like the Hormigons and whatnot, those would probably come in just massive waves of troops.
it's not a game of throwing out your single hero and slogging away with your single hero, especially because when you look at a lot of the characters, especially for the ASM, the Astra Militarum, they are humans, right? So we don't want to have just a single commissar just punching his way through hordes.
Yeah.
That isn't right. That's not
That wouldn't
actually
really
feel
make
like he's
sense.
backed up by the guns, and that's his role.
Absolutely. Will accidentally clicked something there that actually answered the question in chat. Someone said, are we able to shoot the cover? Which, yep, you can.
You can shoot the destructible buildings, yeah. So the destructible buildings can be targeted. You can strategically remove them to
That's
either
cool.
drop them on opponents,
Yeah.
open up line of sight. So actually, this is a cool space here, right? Because you can make some decisions. You can decide to take these buildings out before the orcs arrive. And then you've got a clear firing line to shoot at them. You can wait to try and spring a trap and drop it on them if you'd like as well, and that will hopefully be quite effective if this comes in. There we go. And that will probably hurt quite a bit as well. So there are different ways to use these tools.
Yeah, but as you might expect, different units and different weapons will be more or less effective against the building. So we first started shooting some las guns at a building, and it doesn't do much.
And obviously, while all of the UI, you pointed out some of the bits that are even newer than this. We haven't gotten this build right, but while the UI is all is still being worked on, I do think one of the things I'd say the strength of the card system we've got here is that is 22 units. At the moment in our current Total War titles, showing 22 units squashes so much, but it feels here when I've got 40 guard out, I've got a little bit more room here to play with, which is very nice. So another question someone had.
Yeah, from what I recall, when it comes to the UI for Warhammer 3, aren't they all listed in like one singular row? So the more units you have, the more it gets kind of squashed together. Doubling up the rows feels a lot nicer. It's probably going to be a lot easier to click on particular units.
I don't know how much we can say about it. I've not really asked anyone.
Could be wrong, though. It's been a while.
You're asking now. God.
Psychers. So how would Psychers be represented if they're part of a bodyguard group? Would they have an ability to
Right, absolutely. So it would then give the unit, once you've clicked on it, the appropriate ability. And then when you cast it, that Psyker is going to, within the unit, pop that out there.
Yeah.
Of course, what can happen is that Psyker can also die, and then you will lose access to that ability as part of the unit.
And those unit cards, they dynamically update, right? So if all of your plasma gunners die, you're not going to have... It's going to say you've got 0 plasma
They all show
guns.
you that they've been wiped out, absolutely,
Okay, suppression. We've spoken about suppression, you've suppressed some people.
So that was suppression.
Flanking fire.
So much to talk about. Flanking fire.
What does that, what does that do?
This is something we're actively working on how this works. We're not completely happy with the implementation that we currently have in, but the aim here is to make sure that flanking is present with range, right? So what this is doing is if you're getting around opponents and hitting them in the sides or back, we are basically making it easier to hit them.
Yeah.
We are actually playing with the armor a little bit as well, but it feels a little bit too, frankly, a bit too abstract. We're not super happy, like I said, with the solution we've got at the moment. We're working through some stuff, but the aim.
Okay. Well, that does still seem like a mechanic that we've had, where it's like it's a lot easier to hit units if you're shooting them from the flank with ranged, whether that be the guns, the arrows, or the cannons and whatnot, because the armor is front-facing. But you'd probably have to come up with a system that calculates that damage differently depending on the type of unit that is being attacked and how heavily armored they are on either side. For Warhammer 3, it's a bit easier because people are carrying shields, so like, they'd probably be able to shield things coming at them from the front, but not so much the back. But for an armored vehicle, it would probably be a little bit different. I have to assume that we still have the morale system here as well, and that the unit's morale can get broken if they're getting shot at from multiple different angles. So it just adds more depth to the strategic positioning of your units and being able to beat up people who are much stronger than you by using other tactics outside of just completely wiping them out.
Is to make sure that we are rewarding that positional gameplay, right? So flanking fire really matters. It's definitely going to make a big impact on your morale, right? So again, morale gameplay is super important. It's an important part of what Total War is. Breaking the will of your opponent is just as valid as breaking the bodies of your opponent, and they tend to come somewhat hand in hand, depending on the situation. But we wanted to make sure that's rewarded. So if you're getting around your opponents, you're going to trigger flanking fire, and then you're going to be gaining the benefits of that as well.
Fantastic.
And you can see the little orange arrows showing up on the unit cards as well as the IDs. That's kind of what indicates if a unit is getting flanked or if it's getting suppressed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
Okay, there's so many little questions. A lot of these actually I think we have answered earlier. But the point of this here is we've called this Alpha Strike, right, on range combat. We're trying to go as deep into everything as we can. That means we won't have time for every question because there are so many other things still to cover. And speaking of, the next thing we will be talking about is cover.
But there is a beta. Remember, there's a beta.
There is a beta.
There's a beta, and you can do the thing.
Exactly. Okay, I think Will, your watch is over, and I think we're going to be able to move on to the clips now. So thank you so much for playing
That was
3 times, and that may be the last time they see that battle. So
play it.
we'll wave it goodbye. probably not the last time we see the map. It's a very cool map. But, right, cover. So we touched on it a little.
Hopefully when the game releases, it has a good enough map variety to it. Depending on how massive the campaign map will be and like how different the environments are going to be, I hope that there's a ton of different maps.
A little bit. We've said cover affects your evasion, right? But what we have here is a little clip of what it's like when you don't have cover and you're charging into someone who does. So both of these are shooting at each other.
It's not going to be great.
But those with cover, obviously, we can see are having a much better time of it.
This is kind of like a wombo combo of what not to do when approaching an opponent. A single unit running at an opponent that's in cover, so they're moving and firing, right? That's going to be reducing their accuracy. He's sort of getting broken apart.
Battle shock.
They're getting suppressed. And they have no protection. They're firing at an opponent who is harder to hit. So it's all sort of sticking things together. However, and look at that guy stumbling.
Run.
However, they do have some quite good weapons to counter cover, like flamers. Which we really don't mind. They spit so much fire. It's not needing to be accurate. But
bro, I think I just witnessed D-Day.
Yeah, that was an extreme situation of you run at that, you're gonna end up in pain.
And is all cover identical?
No, so we have a couple of types of cover. We're going to have a lighter cover that'll be reserved for sort of your more natural, like shrub-like stuff, trees, etc. And then we have standard cover, and that's this here. Moving into that, we did also discuss earlier the craters too, right? So I guess going over that again, Pedro.
I mean, aside from the cover that's already on the map, you can make your own by bringing in a big enough bomb to make a hole in the ground.
Absolutely, it doesn't gain all of the benefits that we have from the established cover, but it still gives you that incidental effect of the projectile. Again, we've spoken about it now. Physical projectiles will actually hit that cover piece, and they then make a check as to whether they should be able to penetrate it, right? Like, because some things can go straight through, they can damage it, they can destroy it.
Makes sense. Yeah, depending on the weapon. But also, getting these flamethrowers close enough to somebody in cover seems really freaking good. The problem is covering all that open ground in order to get the flamethrowers there. I have to assume that artillery pieces or the equivalent of are going to be incredibly important, especially later on in the campaigns for 40k here, to potentially destroy or even create cover.
They can go straight through it, right? So that makes a difference. This is very upsetting.
Pretty insane unit.
This is a pretty balmy unit. So the specialists within this unit, they are carrying a bunch of flamers, right? And they've gotten close enough to be able to bring them to bear. We're fighting against an opponent who actually isn't very well teed up to deal with a light unit as well. They're much more
very plasma focused.
Yeah, exactly. So they're why this works, why it's cool, is because they're firing infrequently, right? And the things that they're firing are like not maybe even like the most sometimes not the most accurate things, right? So basically, like they're firing slowly, and it matters when they miss. So they're better at firing at big targets that are easier to hit. So when they're firing at lots of little things, that slow rate of fire really does start to hurt, right? So you want to be tuning and making sure you have the right sorts of things lined up. But getting close enough with the right kind of weapon can be disastrous.
It can. I will say in this clip, because I recorded this one, that guard unit do end up actually losing. Because the Cassicans throw some grenades in and they kill half the flamers.
Really?
And then they struggle to come back from losing back the flamers. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think it's worth mentioning like these examples of guardsmen running in the open against things.
Yeah.
It's generally a really bad idea.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. Even when you are in cover and when you get to put your units into like these proper cover areas in the maps, they will break out of their formation, they will occupy the space in a way that feels natural, and they will naturally break their block. If you are outside of cover, just on the ground, they will be blocked because that's kind of what defines the unit. But that in itself, it's also the disadvantage of being out of cover is your unit is blobbed up. If the enemy decides to bombard you, they are going to suffer.
I have to assume then that these Ogrins are going to have like a much higher charging value, if that's a thing, in order to siege an enemy's cover, completely break their defenses, get in there and start messing them up from melee range, which I would have to assume that they're much better in than the regular guardsmen are going to be.
Heavily.
And we can see here, like, cover helps against range combat, right?
Yeah.
but if they've charged
doesn't
in,
necessarily help against melee combat. So yeah, one of the ways to deal with an entrenched unit is to get in there with something that can punch hard and punch it. Obviously there's challenges there because you don't want to just dive at them, but getting into a position where you can get them close enough, using the terrain, suppressing the opponent, using a unit that can jump, like your storm boys or your assault intercessors with jump packs, they can all help sort of give you a tool to counter that cover, or just blow them up. Like if you have a bombardment and you want to spend it there, then sure, you can get away with really disrupting the opponent and then sending in a wave after to sort of clear them up. So there's some lots of really cool synergy there. Look at them punching. There's a neat little moment in this as well, actually. So shooting. Always shooting. So firing in melee, we developed a feature to support shooting when in melee. So they are literally, when the situation is right, if they've got bullets in the chamber, they're going to pull the trigger. And that really helps with sort of getting across the right kind of feeling to all these units. Again, these Oghren with Ripper guns, right? That thing is horrifying, right? In the bayonet is scary enough, but it's kind of like a horrific shotgun, right? Like a chain shotgun. It's scary, and unloading that into someone's chest is going to be incredibly effective. So
it's really cool that they simulate the combat down to that sort of detail, where it's not just like, okay, now you're in melee. No, you're in melee, but if the situation calls for it, you shoot your gun, because the gun is still incredibly effective, especially at these shorter ranges where it likely will not be missing. Of course, this is a development build, so there are shots happening where it really doesn't feel like there should be, but the idea is there.
Really helps that the units sort of have these different weapons to make them powerful at close quarters and sort of
and it's not just for units that are actively engaged in a melee engagement. When a unit of a bigger unit entity count is engaged in melee, maybe the front line is fighting in melee, but the back line would just be waiting. But with this system, the back line that is idle, if they have
they'd be shooting
a sight, they can pop off some shots as a ranged order instead of just waiting for their turn to melee.
They're opportunistically kind of.
Yeah, I feel like that was always the weakness of ranged units in Warhammer 3, where you could just keep them in melee form by just sending a group of trash units that you have in your army to just make sure that they can't get any effective shots off on your very important units. But with this, that may not be the case, and you have to approach it a bit differently.
Can't wait to show everyone Assault Intercessors.
Oh yeah,
I'm so excited to show Assault Intercessors. We'll get there. Yeah.
We will.
It's not today. I'm sorry. I just realised that's not today. But we will be showing them. They're cool.
I have shown this clip before, but someone asked a question that I think, Pedro, you'd be able to answer, of what guns are they prioritising at any time? So it's the actual question was, with weapons that have got different ranges, what will a unit prioritise during an attack order? So the flamers here, when are they knowing how to prioritise them?
Yeah, so typically the way this works is each group within a unit will have a primary weapon, and this primary weapon tends to be their all-rounder, the weapon that they will use when they don't have any other option that is better. Usually we try to make this weapon the weapon that has the largest range, and this will then be, it'll be their default. It'll be what characterizes the unit, is that they will do this most times. The secondary weapons that can be swapped to, they will usually be shorter range or capped at specific enemy parameters to switch into. So the flamers, they don't care that much. They just care about being close enough. But throwing a crack grenade, for example, you will use it when you have a high AP enemy, but not necessarily if you're fighting against infantry. But it's usually proximity. It's whether that weapon is ready to fire. It's a whole suite of controls that design can just go crazy with, that we've built for them. So it gives us the chance to build all sorts of units in the future of this game.
So, but again, that right click is for the primary group, basically, and then managing whether you get into range for your flamers, etc. That's about moving your unit into the position. We're gonna show the core different ranges were on the
fire arc,
on the fire arcs, but on inspection, because obviously it starts to get quite noisy.
The thing that I would like to stress though is, like, there's a lot of complexity to these systems. There's a lot of complexity to what a unit in 40k can be. And if you're that kind of player, you can dig really deep into it and maximize your usage of the unit, put it at the exact right range, at the exact right target to get the most out of all the different weapons you have. But if you don't want to go that deep, then that's fine as well. The unit will always try to do the best it can do with the weapons it has, given its circumstance. So you don't have to worry about that layer of complexity if you don't want to.
Like we said.
That's very good. Have it be friendly enough for people who don't know about that entire complexity or haven't really reached that point in the game where they care enough about it, just to be able to still play to a good enough degree. But for people who are playing on much higher difficulties, who really want to min-max things, then give them the possibility to go that in-depth with the game. That's kind of what creates a game that gives people thousands upon thousands of hours of entertainment.
Earlier, the specializations within the units are sort of like the icing on the cake. They'll make that depth difference. But broadly, if it all sounds too overwhelming, if you've got guardsmen lined up firing their las guns, that is one of the best jobs that they can be doing. So yeah.
Then I'm just trying to rapid fire some questions. Is there morale in the game?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Is there? Do you run out of ammo?
No.
You do not.
That would be a pain in the ass if people did run out of ammo and like everybody was a ranged unit, so that would constantly keep on happening. I guess it's a fair question though, because units in Warhammer 3 did run out of ammo, but it's a very different circumstance there, I feel. Like, yeah, if you have a bunch of like skinks running around with spears, they're not gonna have infinite spears to throw. But when they do throw it, it's pretty darn effective depending on how good they are at it and how upgraded and what unit that they're throwing it at. But since this is everybody's default attack state, then yeah, no, makes sense.
Oh, you're answering them quicker than I can read the next one.
Should we elaborate a little bit? We should probably elaborate a little
Our
bit.
grenade thing, yes, we'll be showing that.
Yeah.
There was someone asking about units that move and shoot in Warhammer 3. They struggle to shoot and move, but I think we've spoken about that earlier.
We've made a lot.
We've done a lot of improvements to try to get them to detach the movement from the shooting so that they can do both independently and they can shoot and be responsive.
Yeah, if I recall, they would have to just stop and then shoot and then run, which didn't make for the greatest when you were trying to kite something. Like, inevitably the unit would catch up. But if you micromanaged it enough, you could manage it. But like having this be the default for all of your units is going to be kind of a game changer.
And start shooting immediately as when you want it. But come to the closed beta, play the game for the hundreds of hours you can. Give us feedback on that.
Can you customize a unit's appearance?
Hopefully I get in.
Please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is splash damage from exploding vehicles a thing?
Splash damage from exploding vehicles is a thing. Yeah, we can blow up vehicles. Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, there's
not just vehicles.
It didn't happen. It not just Some people will explode depending on the kit that they have, or if you're going to overcharge your plasma. That didn't happen.
So what? Do we have a Skaven situation where the plasma gun just explodes because we use it too much? That's always going to be a risk, right?
Happened in the playthrough there, unfortunately, but we have this system of what we're calling sort of systemic or chaotic deaths.
High ground versus
so
low
if you
ground
kill
here.
like a battle wagon, there's a chance that it will sort of veer off. And you've seen it with the Storm Boys, right, where they're coiling off and exploding. There's a chance that vehicles will also get up to that mischief too, right? So they might veer off and crash into something and explode, all through a number of different chances and what hit it, etc. And we're using that in a number of really interesting ways. I'd love to get into detail with that in another one. Maybe,
that'd be cool. A kind of question, maybe request, was if guardsmen aren't in combat for 30 seconds, would they then take the time to reload?
They will, but it's something that we're still kind of fiddling with, basically.
How do trees...
I see, that's right. Because they did talk about how the ammo count is actually a thing that they consider. And in battle, they will have to stop to reload. But yeah, what if they're standing idle? Then they might as well be reloading in order to prepare for the next battle.
Work in terms of blocking projectiles.
You're going to shoot them.
They will block
them,
hit,
and then they will fall down or
eventually get destroyed.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I can rapid fire. Other ones I've seen that have been asked, we have actually answered earlier. So here we're talking about height, right? So height differences in colour.
I like how you moved your hand.
And they can't see me. So
yeah, exactly. Remember, this is height. Height.
Yes.
Yeah. So height, again, positional gameplay really matters in Total War, and an important part of that is out-positioning your opponent. Height really matters, and it's a really cool blend of the simulation and a few levers. We can do things like we can change damages, etc. But a large amount of what is happening here, again, is an improvement to the accuracy of the unit. So these guardsmen on the left have an elevation over the ones on the right, so they're firing down at them and they're getting a bonus to their accuracy, which is sort of overcoming that cover bonus, right? So now it's like a almost direct counter to the cover is get above it and fire down into it. But alongside...
Yeah, makes sense. For range combat, at least. I do recall when I was playing Warhammer 3 that if you were on high ground, even with a melee unit, you'd still be getting an advantage over the other unit that you were fighting. Although, in reality, if you're fighting in melee, having the higher ground is probably worse, considering you have to like strike down at your opponent. It's kind of a bit of an awkward angle to fight at. I wonder if melee in this game will still work the same way, that having a height advantage will give you that bonus, or whether they're going to change that.
There's a simulated aspect, right, which is that when they're firing at them, they are physically higher than them. So all those collisions, those things that would block the projectiles, the sandbags, etc.,
not going to be
they're
as good.
firing over them now, right? They're firing down into the cover. So the simulation is also sort of boosting the effectiveness of it. You can see there, this is like a
This is
slaughter.
the most dramatic one we've had.
The grenades are putting in lead work here to sort of try and
the other ones only had flamers, I think.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They're in trouble.
But you can really see like the unit that's firing up, because this is an extreme situation. They're barely actually getting hits off now on the guard that are firing down onto them. So it's a huge advantage to be able to get up
much
onto a
higher
cover
up.
position that's higher and fire down into another one. It's still better to be in cover than not, frankly. But it's a fun counter to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the most extreme example I could create, but really it is the grenade launchers that do a ton of work there, because we're talking about tracking all of the individual projectiles, right? Billion of them on screen.
Hang on. Whoa. You heard it here first. You're delivering that now.
Oh no. So you can see them all fire. It's all being tracked, and that is, they do need to be able to find a path to their target, right? So they're not going to clip through the bottom of that ramp.
No.
And then 90 degrees up and go and hit the guy.
No. We have had some fun bugs where people shoot the cover in front of them and sometimes blow
And
themselves
blow
up. There have been some.
I think there's a
sketchy
couple
moments.
of instances in this clip where a grenade hits the cover right in front.
I already saw it.
It can happen.
Where it makes sense, we have rules and controls, and we'll put in rules and controls to make it feel smooth and feel good. But our attitude towards developing a lot of this stuff is we start by going to the simulation and trying to get it to simulate, and then sort of bringing in the abstractions that are appropriate to make it feel and play nice, right? So we try and make sure we are doing justice to the simulation.
Yes. And speaking of, let's do. What clips have I got left? Let's do changing grenades.
Let's go to it. Caveat.
Oh yeah, we toned this down.
We toned this down quite a bit.
So they only throw one.
Yeah, so you can see there was a frag grenade thrown there on the top. We're going to now target the Bane Blade. Good luck. But a crack grenade goes off.
Grenade.
Pop.
Nice.
So yeah, massively toned down.
Yeah.
But that is how it will ultimately work. If you could ever get yourself into a position where you could move your Kazakin into there and not be absolutely gutted.
Yes.
But again, it's more just demonstrating that.
And this is a good time also to talk about. We'll talk about formations after, because I think you also want to say something about how choosing the best target for the grenades, right?
Yeah.
But there was a lot of discussion about formations, what they're standing in. You can see the Kazakin are standing differently to the guard.
Yep. So some units will stand more loose and look more modern. Some, if it's appropriate, will stand more in blocks. It was a really interesting discussion to go on, and one that's been internal too a lot, about just like making sure we capture the feeling of everything. And why I think it's one of the reasons I think it's so divided is because kind of like everyone's kind of right, like in some instances some things should be standing in blocks, and in some instances they should be standing loose. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty of that, again, I think it's something we're really keen to work with everyone on and make sure that we are representing the units in a way that feels right. So
I do agree on this point. I feel like they kind of hit the nail on the head when it came to a lot of the factions in Warhammer 3 and the types of units that they had, where they originated from, why they would be standing in a very militaristic, very tight positions, or whether it's like the Forces of Chaos, who are kind of not as organized because, well, they're just a bunch of people coming from all different places, or a bunch of demons just trying to work for their master. That's just how it goes, right? Obviously here, I assume that's more of like a scout unit who doesn't want to be sitting in rank and file and get shot immediately because they're just standing next to the person. But for the guardsmen, it does make a ton of sense for them to be in a military formation. One of those very important minor details that goes a long way when it comes to a game feeling much more immersive. Like, imagine the Tyranids when they finally come in, and all of them just standing rank and file. Like, I don't think that would make a whole lot of sense, would it?
When it comes to the case-by-case basis, we obviously have the take that we put in, but we're gonna chat through and get the beta and talk about adjusting parameters. But yeah, we definitely have more modern looking and feeling ones, and we'll have things.
Oh damn. I think my head was blocking here, but you can see the guardsmen on the right here. People who are heavily injured would be grasping at like wherever their wound was and slowly limping away, trying to survive, trying to get healed. That's a pretty neat part of the simulation.
That look more traditional as well. There's a little fun detail. You might have seen the Storm Boys sort of look oddly regimented for orcs, right? And that's because actually Storm Boys, they're kind of the rebellious youths, right, of the orcs, yep. And so they are actually quite into marching drills and order and that sort of thing. So like it's a fun way to represent like the nuance of
they're rebellious. So that means that they're ordered.
I'm really glad that we got to talk about orcs just a little bit.
Yeah. You'll have your go. All right, we'll talk about strafing.
Yeah.
We only have 2 clips left.
Okay,
so we promised about an hour and it's just over now. So
this one's a good one.
Yeah.
So strafing, yeah. We can now move backwards and shoot at stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
Insane.
Obviously, can seem like a very small thing, but it makes such a big difference.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, for sure. I think just being able to keep eyes on a target, moving sideways or backwards, to be able to go, right, keep looking at that direction, move around it, move backwards, get away from it. It's so useful. It's very powerful, and it makes for some really fun, sort of lures and baits and traps. For example, you could be moving back here, but then pulling these guys into like a flank, for example.
Yeah.
So there's some really cool stuff that you can do with it.
Yeah, but it's not just free, right? You have some.
No.
You have some disadvantages.
Yes.
If you're going to do
and that's actually a question.
A retreat, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone asking if accuracy is affected by strafing, running, suppression.
For sure. So kind of as we spoke about earlier, different units were better or worse at doing this. Most stuff, especially your run-of-the-mill infantry, is not amazing at moving and shooting and moving backwards and whatnot. They can pull it off. It avoids you having to like show your back, which can be really helpful. If there's an opponent close, spraying bullets at them is definitely better than not.
Yeah.
But there are some units that can be extremely proficient in it.
Yes.
So, for example, Space Marines, they are very, very good at moving, shooting, moving back, moving sideways, and it makes them very dynamic and fun to work with. So
So we have the Sentinels here strafing backwards, but every unit in the game can do it. Infantry can do it. Everyone is able to.
Everyone is able to do it, though. I think there is. I just realised there's probably a distinction we should make between reversing and strafing.
Yes.
True.
So tanks reverse, obviously. They've got tracks. They can't slide sideways. So where it makes sense, things can move orthogonally, right? They can move, left, right, diagonal, etc. Actually, that's okay. But won't get
up,
into
down.
that. Everywhere. But something's going to need reverse, right? And that's part of the play of them, right? So tanks, they need to turn to the direction that they're facing, obviously, before they start moving in. But if you've got a hover tank like a repulsor or something like that, then it can move sideways.
Sideways is pretty good too.
That can make some pretty annoying tanks when it comes to things like Eldari. So that's really fun.
That
all
sounds
these
pretty sexy.
debuffs when you're strafing had to go in the game, because when we first introduced this and we started playing, every battle was resolved by who could get up to the enemy and then walk backwards.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns too, where it felt like that would just be the answer in a game focused around ranged combat. There has to be some sort of downside to it, because otherwise it just seems like an upside. And as I mentioned, like different units will be better at it. I assume different factions, depending on their playstyle, will be much, much better at it than others. Like, for example, like I said, the Space Marines. I can also probably assume the Eldari will likely be pretty good at it, considering they have a lot of like very speedy units. So it'll be a fun thing to see. I do feel like because they've added it into the game, though, if you're moving from one position to another and the enemy is still within sight, you might as well be strafe shooting at them while moving. Unless if there's some sort of thing where don't fire at them, just move to this position of cover as quick as possible. That could also be an option.
I've seen some discussion of how much will the blood DLC cost.
Blood's in the game.
Zero.
Blood's in the game.
Zero.
There's blood in all of these clips, and this is the game.
Okay,
that's
those
good.
ninjas popping off?
Yes.
They're going to pop off.
And you will end
We don't
up,
need that again.
if someone manages to survive quite a few encounters, they will look very bloody by the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one last clip. The thing I will call out for this clip, because some people have already noticed it, I recorded these clips over like a couple of different days, and every time I'd boot in and I'd grab one, I'd quit. the way it works is there's different like lightings and skyboxes that can load in.
Yep.
So that is why the lighting looks slightly different in all of them.
Also, then that's a different biome.
Yes,
work in
we
progress,
loaded,
but
it's the same map, but we put it in
in a
arid.
different biome.
Also, there's a little detail here.
Another one more.
The demo we were playing before, I mentioned that the Fog of War shader wasn't present, but it is present in these clips.
Oh, yeah.
Sneaky
So
stuff.
that's why it looks
we'll let
different.
you all pour
Gotcha.
over this, and you'll find all sorts of
this
stuff.
was the same map with arid, because that's something I think me and you spoke about on the show
Yes.
and tell of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
different
yeah.
maps having different environments.
Yeah.
So now people will be able to see exactly how drastic that change
Yeah,
would be.
it can be really striking in terms of the visual.
Okay, and I had to say that because the tank, the Baneblade, looks very different because I got literally like the two most extreme kinds of lighting I can get on a map for the two different shots with the Baneblade in.
And a lot of again,
Yes, it's all development
in progress, right?
Okay, this is my favourite clip, and it's the one we'll be talking about last. Sweeping fire.
Indeed.
Oh no!
So when
Oh my God.
things shoot a lot, it would be bad if they had just shot in front. So now things can also sweep their fire across an enemy unit.
Yeah.
So if you're firing at the
Spray
enemy
and
unit
pray.
with something like a Baneblade that has all these turrets and all this firepower, they will sweep through the enemy unit to get as many of them as they can, and they're gone.
It's like a magic trick.
Yeah.
It's worth pointing out that is a unit that is that's an Orc Boy unit.
Yeah.
It's not a particularly late game unit, though rank and file of the Orcs. This is one of the most precious, most expensive, most powerful units you're going to get in the game. In a very good situation to be firing at that. I kind of feel silly talking about the pacing earlier. About some things will happen fast.
Yes.
So yeah, there's
Orcs not in cover versus the most
Versus-
expensive thing I could find.
that can absolutely like throw out as many bolts as you can imagine. It's awesome. Really fun.
I guess
And
we
hey,
could-
if you have 40 of them, maybe you are getting a billion bullets out at the same time.
maybe. I guess it depends on how you outfit your Baneblade as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because you again, as part of the specializations, the sponsors
Cool.
and what you have.
Okay, so it's not just limited to like the guns or weapons that your units are using. You can also customize the actual vehicles themselves. That's awesome.
Attached to your tanks make a difference. So obviously this has been spec'd out in a way where it's got the las cannons, it's got the bolters, but you can change the main battle cannon on the tank, and that can massively change the overall function of the tank itself.
Something better versus
these turrets can
infantry.
also get up to mischief. We
Better
spoke about the
versus
Spitfire
armored.
stuff
Yeah.
earlier, right? Like if you charge in and sort of have multiple opponents on different sides,
Yep.
whilst they're in fire at will, they will be picking out the targets that they see as most favourable,
Yes.
right? So those bolters are going to be focused on busting up the chaff.
Yep.
Those las guns, if there is a unit that is worth firing at, they'll be like, well, I'd like to pick at that.
Yep.
But if you do right click on something, the guns are going to be trying to put
Yes.
the shots towards the thing you told it to.
And one thing to point out, because someone in chat did notice it, and we said we would call it out, we were still playing around with the tolerances at this point of what things can shoot through.
Yes.
Shooting through itself. So you'll see some shots where it hits itself, because this is kind of mid us experimenting with
Yeah.
that.
It's a fun balance as well, because what we don't want is for like pure frustration, right? We don't want you to have to go and
In a very specific angle.
fiddle around with your tank, like to just get all of the things firing. That doesn't mean we want this,
Yes.
right? Like we can control sort of the angles and the tolerances and how far things go. So it is I don't think this is quite what we want, but it's a fine tune of just adjusting like how far things can fire and whatnot, without making it, like we said, just kind of feel frustrating and awkward.
Yes.
You want it to be able to fire, and it really does. It gets your heart down
Yep.
when things don't shoot. It's gone away now. I love the las cannon hitting them at the beginning. And it's so
great.
Those poor boys.
I'll ask you one other question, and I don't know the answer, so we'll find out together. Can a bullet ricochet and hit someone else?
So we're not doing ricochets at the moment. No. So yeah, that isn't something that we've.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like that would massively increase the amount of calculations the simulation would have to do. And I don't really know if it's worth it just yet, unless if they can find a way to implement it without breaking the system or ruining the performance.
Because there's on the tank when it was being shot, I think they could see a lot of.
So there are visual ricochets.
Yes.
But at the point that the bullet ricochets, it will no longer be able to collide and damage something.
Yeah. But
So you can't shotgun yourself accidentally if you shoot a tank.
not necessarily.
Unfortunately not.
Thank
No,
goodness.
but a neat thing about that, actually, is a cool thing to point at, is that what that's representing is the damage that's being done, right? So
Right.
ricochets are kind of representing, and sparks and things like that are representing kind of naff damage.
Yes.
Not all things will look like a ricochet, but what we're saying is like that thing hit and it didn't really bite in.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's,
And
it's a
then
visual indication of the damage you're doing.
right,
Yeah,
right,
and how
if-
effective your unit is being.
yeah, so if you get like a really chunky impact, what we want is to be able to say at a distance or at a good space, you can see something hitting something, go, that looks like it hurts, because it does,
Yeah.
right? And so we're trying to sort of get that to sit nicely.
Brilliant. Well,
So much to talk
I mean,
about.
so
much to talk about.
we fit as much as we can into that 1 hour with one battle and
These
a
games are
a-
insane,
a show.
man.
But,
Grand strategy
that
games.
is the last thing I've seen it, and so many times I've gone, I'll just make sure we mention that optimization.
Yes.
So this build wasn't the most optimized build and running on the most optimized version of the hardware. Optimization is ongoing at all times,
Yeah,
right? But something that
much.
mainly comes
Forevermore.
more towards the end.
Yeah, indeed. So obviously we're trying to get the game playable and show it off and show you the real game, not a dressed up version of it.
Yes.
So the game is not ready to ship. So it's not fully optimized. We're gonna run into some issues. We're gonna run into some frame drops. I hope this is also a way for you to see that we're showing you the real deal.
Yes.
But at the moment, the team is working really hard on it. I'm really proud of everyone. I think we're doing a great job getting to where we need to be, and we're gonna get this game in your hands
Yes.
soon in the beta.
And there was we'll finish up in a second, and when we do, you'll see there's another link there to the beta. But please do sign up if you liked what you saw. If you didn't like what you saw, sign up to the beta. Give us your feedback on it.
Can I
there's-
play?
We'll see. I'll see if I know
I'm gonna
someone
play.
who might be
I'm
able to get you. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for both of you joining me and letting us pick your brains for,
Yeah.
for an
no
hour.
Thank you so
worries.
much for having us.
Appreciate it.
If you guys liked the Alpha Strike format, if you want this for stuff like melee combat or
Well, this for everything
abilities,
about the game,
destruction,
to be honest.
whatever kind of floats your boat, let us know. We'll think about doing some more of these if people want to see more. But otherwise,
Give me the
this was
campaign map.
shooting. This was our first battle shown live of Total
shooting
War
and
Warhammer.
more.
Hey, we were
friends.
shot by a camera as we watched,
Yeah.
we watched them shoot the orcs. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll have a more casual stream next week as we wind down from the prep for all of this. But you'll see more soon. See you at Gamescom, those of you who go there. Otherwise, we'll catch you at the next stream. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Hell yeah. While I haven't been following much about the game, this one showcase seemed incredibly promising, and I really enjoyed the format of just developers talking about the game that they worked on, Being upfront about the challenges and the things that they want to implement, things that just may not be so very realistic to do so, but it could be a work in progress thing that they consider in the future. It's nice to hear about. I feel like a lot of the things they implemented just make a ton of sense. We're just going to have to wait and see how the simulation actually does play out once we get our hands on it. But I'm very excited to play the game. It's gotten me excited to re-download Warhammer 3, honestly, so that I can re-experience the Total War gameplay once again. But alrighty, my dudes, thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed your time here and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. But I'll catch you guys in the next one.